I would like to welcome you at the Czech-Israeli Innovation Day Smart Healthcare, which is broadcasted from the BEA channel studio at the BEA campus in Olomouci. You can see us at the YouTube and Facebook. This year Innovation Day is the second in the row to take place in Olomouci. The goal of last year Czech-Israeli Innovation Day was to present the Israeli smart healthcare, which could inspire the Czech healthcare system in the field of management, education and innovations, and support specific Czech-Israeli project. Since 2019, a group of institutions and experts has been formed in the Olomouci region to create a regional ecosystem for the development of innovations in healthcare. The current COVID-19 crisis speed up the demand for the digital solution. This concerns also the format of our conference. This year online conference is focused on practical issues of cooperation between hospitals, academic institutions and companies in improving healthcare through new technologies and digitalization. In Israel, hospitals themselves are big promoters of innovations. The largest hospitals have even their own innovation centers. I would like to thank to the Olomouci region for the continuous support of the Innovation Days and the Czech-Israeli cooperation in smart healthcare. This event is organized by the Olomouci Innovation Cluster in cooperation with the Czech-Israeli Mutual Chamber of Commerce and the Moravian Business College Olomouci. After experiencing many different webinars this year, where there are different problems with hearing and seeing or keeping time limits of speakers, we decided for another format when we pre-recorded most of the presentations and have the debates in the studio. Let us hope that it will be useful innovation and bring comfort to the audience. Let me invite you to the opening block with addresses by Israeli Ambassador to the Czech Republic, Daniel Meron, and Deputy Governor of the Olomouci region, Dalibor Horák, who is responsible for the healthcare. Last is my talk about the smart healthcare as the agenda of the Czech-Israeli Mutual Chamber of Commerce.
Dobry den, shalom. It's great to be here with you at the Czech-Israeli Innovation Day on Smart Healthcare. This is actually the second of its kind of a Smart Healthcare Day in Olomouci, Czech-Israeli. The idea behind this was of the Czech-Israel Chamber of Commerce, CISOC. And I would like to congratulate its president, Pavel Smutny, and the driving force behind this day last year and this year, Tomáš Jelinek. I'd also like to mention Ondroj Bočkoj, the general manager of CISOC, and thank them for being behind this idea. The partners in Olomouci are the Olomouci region, the Kraj, the Olomouci General Hospital, the University, Palacký University, the Moravian Business School, BEA, and Tesco. All these got together with our side, the Israeli side, and I was very pleased to be a partner in this. And we have terrific Israeli partners. I will not mention them all. You will hear them today throughout the day. This issue of smart healthcare, of healthcare in general, is a strategic item in the cooperation between our two countries. I have seen this as an issue where there is more and more interest on both sides for cooperation, and there is a great potential for this. Actually, a lot of things are happening, and we will talk about this in a minute. But before that, I would like to say that this is my second time coming to Olomouci, this time virtually. Last time I was there a year ago in the beautiful city of Olomouci, a city which is very dear to me personally. My wife's family, some of them were in Olomouci before the Holocaust, and we actually laid Stolperstein in their memory in the town just to remember them. And I'm very pleased that the region is behind this cooperation. The Czech Foreign Ministry, Foreign Minister Tomáš Petříček, invited us to the Černin Palace, to the Foreign Ministry in Prague, to have a forum on Czech-Israel Forum on e-health. And that was also organized together with CISOC. And it was a very successful one, where we discussed some of the general issues that will be discussed in more detail today in this online event. And the event has to do a lot with the pandemic. The pandemic has shown us how we need to be more attuned to all the technical solutions of telemedicine, of meeting the doctor online, of having an appointment in the hospital online, having our medical file filed in a digital way. All these things save time, save lives. And that is something that in Israel we have really experienced and we have really developed in a terrific way. There is a great example of cooperation between the General Hospital here in Prague and the Sheba Medical Hospital in Israel on neuro-rehabilitation, where both hospitals are working together, innovation in medicine, and that is in the field of neuro-rehabilitation. And I know from both sides that this cooperation is working extremely well. And specifically in the field of COVID-19, we are seeing more and more interest in finding technological solutions, how we can find rapid tests, for instance, how we can manage to test big groups of people so we can go back to normal life. We can go back to the soccer stadiums, to the shopping centers, to the airports, where you have big groups of people coming into one place. They need to be tested, and the tests need to be done rapidly. There are a few companies in Israel that are making really progress in this field. One is NanoScent, where you smell the molecules from a person, and in 5 minutes it gives you a test. Positive, negative. Is the person allowed inside or not allowed inside? Another one is also from the Sheba Medical Center, and that is a company called SpectraLit. SpectraLit is using the saliva from a person. The saliva is taken into a test tube, and in 30 seconds, you know if the guy is positive to COVID or negative. This could change our life, because this is the situation now. We will have to live with it for a few more months, maybe for a year, maybe for more. And we need to find the technological solutions how to live with this situation. Israel has many of these solutions, and the Czech Republic is also making progress in this. And together, our scientists and our experts can work on these solutions. So I think that this issue is going to be an extremely interesting one in the coming future of cooperation between our two countries, between our two scientists, and I'm really excited because together we will save lives. Thank you very much.
Milé kolegyně, vážení kolegové, dovolte mi, abych vás pozdravil u příležitosti 2. ročníku Česko-izraelského inovačního dne Smart Healthcare z centra Olomouckého kraje z města Olomouce. Olomoucký kraj velmi vítá a podporuje veškeré aktivity, které vedou k rozvoji zdravotní péče ve prospěch občanů našeho regionu. K ním řadím i naše dnešní online setkání. Ještě v nedávné minulosti jsme se domnívali, že využití moderních metod, včetně telemedicíny, k posílení dostupnosti zdravotní péče se týká zejména vnitřních a vnějších periférií našeho kraje. Těchto mikroregionů je v našem kraji několik. Nejznámější z nich je Jesenicko, které na severu sousedí s Polskem a od centrální části kraje je odděleno hřebenem Hrubého Jeseníku. Ale jedná se také o menší enklávy, Štítecko, Konicko, vojenský újezd Libavá a okolí Moravského Berouna, tedy okrajové části Olomouckého kraje, na jeho hranicích se sousedními kraji. Zejména v těchto oblastech občané našeho kraje pociťovali dílčí nedostatky v dostupnosti zdravotní péče a čekali na nové výzvy, které by pomohly zvýšit jejich životní komfort. Události letošního roku však všechny přesvědčili o tom, že nutnost hledání nových postupů v zajištění zdravotní péče není okrajovou záležitostí, ale dotýká se celé populace bez ohledu na konkrétní místo bydliště. Zejména podzimní vlna koronaviru a s ní související přetížení zdravotnického systému prokázaly nutnost hledání nových cest, které co nejdříve dokážou všem poskytovatelům zdravotních služeb bez ohledu na jejich velikost odlehčit od rutinných výkonů a administrativy. Jsem velmi rád, že se významné aktivity vedoucí k prošlapání těchto nových cest odehrávají také v našem krajském městě Olomouci. Vznik regionálního ekosystému pro rozvoj inovací ve zdravotnictví by měl přinést užitek našim občanům v kvalitnější péči. Česko-izraelská expertní spolupráce je pak příležitostí pro inspiraci a partnerství. Milé dámy, vážení pánové, přeji nám všem mnoho úspěchů.
Czech-Israeli Mutual Chamber of Commerce took the smart healthcare as its main strategic agenda 2 years ago. It's one of the topics which are developed among the members of the chamber who are interested in the field, and it has become a few formats of cooperation. One of the formats was the Innovation Day in Olomouci 1 year ago, and the other format is the working group on the smart healthcare inside of the chamber. Both activities are trying to find the opportunities for the development of business and transfer of know-how. For the Czech Republic, it's a great inspiration in Israel, mainly in the area of innovation in the big hospitals and transfer of innovations into the provision of healthcare services. So this is the field which we see as something what could really bring big benefits to the Czech healthcare. On the other side, the Czech Republic has very developed medical research and high quality of medical education, which can be also reflected with the fact that we have quite a big group of Israeli medical students in few big cities in Czech Republic who could also, in a way, get involved in the smart healthcare development when they finish their studies. We are meeting today for the Czech-Israeli Innovation Day on Smart Healthcare in Olomouci, number 2, and it's not the new conference. It's more the new milestone on the debates in Olomouci along with our Israeli partners, how we can create something what we admire in Israel and what we still don't see in the Czech Republic. The Olomouci partners has been discussing the possibility to form ecosystem which could develop smart healthcare innovations for the Czech region. Czech region meaning region in Olomouci. And it could be inspiration for the further development in the Czech Republic. So among those partners, it's the University Hospital of Olomouci, it's the Olomouci University, it's the Moravian Business College, BEA Campus Olomouci, Tesco Software, and many other experts. And the main field, or the main goal, it's to show that this approach would bring benefits to the patients in the Olomouci region. That it's not only about playing with technologies, but it's about really solving how to provide services to the patients and how to give them better or cheaper services. And especially in the period of the COVID-19, which tested our systems, we see that it's not only about the telemedicine, even the telemedicine is quite important part of it, but it's also about the better management of healthcare services in the hospital and medical centers. One of the crucial questions is how to connect the Olomouci ecosystem with Israeli partners, with the Israeli ecosystem. One of the things what we really want to do is to have a practical results. We don't want to speak about theory. We don't want to do studies. We want to have innovations which are in the life of the Olomouci region, which are translated into the changes in the provision of the healthcare services in Czech Republic. The important part of this reform, it's the digital healthcare. And digital healthcare brings a big move in the thinking of people. It sort of needs to find a way how the medical doctors incorporate the work IT and how IT people serve to the medical practitioners. And this is something where we can learn from Israel, because the Israel with its digitalization started reform from the bottom up. It was a process where the health insurance companies embraced the medical doctors along with the IT, and they found a way of the joint development of the tools which would provide better services and which would bring benefits to the medical doctor, to the patients, and also to the providers of the healthcare. We are very happy that we were able to get good speakers for today's meeting, and we hope that the next year we can already present some first innovations which were developed in Olomouci region, and we can also give you more updates on the way how the Czech ideas could even find its way to be used in Israel. As we heard Ambassador Meron, the healthcare is becoming an important agenda between the Czech Republic and Israel, and Olomouc can give new topics, and we hope that this conference and our the long time projects to raise the digital healthcare in the region will bring its fruits also in this field. The Deputy Governor Horak formulated two main important tasks for the digitalization in the Olomouc region, one being the sort of telemedicine use in the distant areas of the region, the other being the more efficient healthcare provision to everyone. Allow me to welcome now our experts in the studio. The Dr. Rachel Kay, who is with us from Israel. Hello, Rachel. And Professor.
Hello. I unmuted myself to say hi.
Yes. And Professor.
Just hello.
And Professor Havlik, who is the CEO of the University Hospital in Olomouc, who will be with me in the studio during the day, and who will participate on our debate.
Hello. Hello.
So now we are going to the panel of our Israeli expert speakers. We will start with the presentation of Professor Varda Libraman, whom we visited in 2019 in IDC Herzliya, who is leading the MBA program for the healthcare innovations. And she will speak about the bridging the gap, how the technology is meeting the medical experts.
Hello, hi. My name is Varda Libraman, and I'm a professor at the IDC Herzliya. It's a private university, and a visiting professor at Stanford University. And among other things, I'm the founder and head of the MBA in Healthcare Innovation at the IDC, a program that is in collaboration with Sheba Medical Center. This is our beautiful campus, and let's go to our talk. So the global healthcare industry is worth trillions of dollars. This is an opportunity for the economy of states, investors, and researchers. And indeed, a lot is being done. But if you look at the founders of companies and startups in the ecosystem, often they don't come from the healthcare industry. I don't know if you know, they too. If you don't, I urge you to look it up. It's now a company that was meant for diabetes, and it's a blood sugar control made easy. And then there is Zebra. It's a image diagnosis with the power of AI, and Healthy.io, which turns the smartphone camera into a medical device. Now, all these three amazing success companies and startups are founded by people who are not physicians. So Yuval Ofek, who founded Day 2, is an engineer. Eyal Gura, who founded Zebra, and he is a student of mine, was a student of mine, came from business administration. And Yonatan Yoni Adiri, who founded Healthy.io, came from international affairs. So all kinds of different areas, but not physicians. So in fact, we face today that there is a gap between the entrepreneurship and technology and the physicians. And what happens is that an entrepreneur, when he has an idea, he just run forward and execute whatever idea he has. But when it comes to healthcare, sometimes he fails just because when it comes to healthcare, there are people there, and regulations, and physicians that need to implement things. So many times it fails not because the idea is bad, but because he didn't speak to physicians who could advise him. And many times maybe they would have told him, don't go there. On the other hand, the physicians themselves also don't know what's happening on the other side. They don't even know sometimes that there is so much advancement in the technology, and people do marvelous things that they are not aware of. And they are very frustrated with their everyday life. They have sometimes needs that are not met. And they don't even know that there are people there that could fulfill their dreams if they dared to dream. So we really need to bridge this gap. And what we need in order to do it is really to bring all the key players of the healthcare ecosystem to get to know each other, learn to speak the same language, learn to speak with each other and collaborate. And for that, we need to put together really physicians, entrepreneurs, engineers, researchers, investors, managers, advisors, everyone, lawyers, people coming from biomed, pharma, high-tech, anyone who touch on the ecosystem of healthcare. Now, you all know, I think you know, my program, the MBA program in healthcare innovation. We introduced it several times, but so I won't speak about that. But in our program, we really, which started about 5 years ago, we really identified, when I say we, it's me with the general manager of Shimba, Professor Price, and we identified the need and decided to offer an MBA in healthcare innovation that will help bridge this gap by bringing together people from all areas of the ecosystem and teach them to work together. We do it through the hands-on practicum. We put them in small teams. The teams are heterogeneous. We have in each team, you have a physician and an engineer and a VC person, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you put together, these are just a small sample of our students that come from all over the world because it's international. So if you put a manager of a medical company together with a serial entrepreneur that comes from Mexico and a physician who heads a research and innovation center and a CEO of another medical company and the CEO, deputy CEO of one of the largest hospitals in Vietnam and a dentist from Portugal, you put these people together and marvelous things happen. So just as an example, Professor Gal Merkel, who was the graduate of our class 1, he's a famous physician. He is the director of the Ella Institute for Immuno-Oncology and Melanoma at Shiva Medical Center. And when he was a student, and this is just as an example, I don't want to talk about the program itself, but when he was a student, he met Hadas Givon. She was a clinical trial manager in a biomedical company. He took her into Shiba and made her the clinical manager of the Ella Institute. And then together, they founded a startup, a company, Ella Therapeutics. And they took with them 2 other graduates, one that comes from Teva and one that a statistician that comes from a company that does statistics. So you see how when you combine, when you put together all these people that come from different areas, you can do much more interesting and exciting things. And so we were doing this for the last few years and with many success stories, which I won't go into them. And then came COVID-19. And when the pandemic came 2019, our vision in creating the healthcare MBA program earned really its proof of concept. Because what happened is that urgent needs and challenges were introduced. Now, what happened in everyday life is that people, each of us is in our, everyday doing. We don't collaborate. We don't want to hear about other areas. But when there is a need, a real challenge, a real threat, we are all kind of come together. We put our egos aside. We joined hands. And what happened is that all players in the ecosystem joined hands to create innovation solutions and amazing startups and inventions happened. So, and it happened in all the hospitals in Israel, but for example, in Sheba, in ARC Innovation Center, which is a very big and advanced one, what happened is that the best technological people of the military and the intelligence, engineers, and the entrepreneurs, AI people, all joined forces with the medical centers, including Sheba. So for example, at Sheba, you see, if you see here, these are the military people that came and they are talking to Dr. Zimlechman, the head of ARC, and together they plan, and indeed they made things that wouldn't have happened in everyday life. Money was not an issue because there is a need, so the government puts money into it. The army, the military, kind of gave people, in Israel, in some of the units, there are technological people that are just top-notch, and they never even dealt with healthcare, but now they were given to Sheba, and together they joined forces and gave solutions to, whatever needs was there. In our, by the way, program, again, a group of students, Moshe Ashkenazi, who is a physician at Sheba, together with another girl, Ganit, who is an AI person from Amdocs, and Tal Nevo from Sheba, and Natalie Gottlieb from Teva. And we also recruited, again, just, volunteered. Intel Mobileye gave us some programmers together with ARC and some people from Sheba. Together in 72 hours, they built a coronavirus command and control center at Sheba. The need for that was because in Sheba, they did quite an amazing thing. Instead of sending the patients, the corona patient, into the departments and isolate them, they built, in the hospital, departments for corona patients. So there was a corona gynecology department, children department of corona patients, even psychiatric corona department. And all of a sudden they found themselves with all these departments all over the hospital, and they needed to control from a control room. So this was done in 72 hours. And again, just the need. Intel would never do that. ARC people are too busy. And so are our students, who are all top-notch professionals, and they are working wherever they do. So in fact, COVID-19 took us, I feel, 10, 20 years ahead. Things happened that would take us 10, 20 years to get there. The challenge now is really to make sure that such collaborations continue. And that's a real challenge because, now the military probably would need these people and won't let them work for other purposes, and so goes for everyone. So my take-home message today would be that, opportunities are really all around. Just look around, and there are so many of them. In order to advance innovation in the clinical community, all the key players must join forces. And for that to happen, they really need to reach out, talk to each other, listen, share ideas, and collaborate for the benefit of all of us. Thank you.
Varda Libraman made a nice introduction to our next speaker, Professor Klempfner, who is our online guest from Israel. He works in the Sheba Medical Center, and his presentation will be about the data lake and the machine learning. So hello, Robert. Floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Great seeing you and being with you digitally. I would much have preferred to be physically in your beautiful country, but it is as it is. So I'll do my best and tell you the story of a number of our projects, our data lake, our remote telemedicine programs, and I'll do my best to give you a taste of what we're doing so we can think about collaborations, because collaboration is key for all our endeavors. Second, that this. Can you perhaps show the slides from your side, because it doesn't permit me to do the share screen? I'll try again. Sorry.
So we all fight with the technology. Is the challenge not only for the telemedicine, but also for our conferences. So we have the slideshow, which we can also use from the studio if you want, Robert. Should we use it from our side?
So can you present the slides inside?
So please continue with your presentation, and we will use the slides as we have it in the backup file.
Okay, great. So regarding first of all, a few words about Shiba and our innovation center. So the innovation center was founded about 3 years ago, and it's a place where we are trying to combine ideas from within Shiba of our entrepreneurs. We have about 2,000 people in the staff that are actively collaborating with Shiba, with the Innovation Center at Shiba. And on the different level, we are working with the different startups that come to Shiba, and they seek the advice of our physicians. They seek they need the data, of course, de-identified data. They need a place to do their clinical trials. So we're trying to combine this entrepreneurs, people from within Shiba having ideas about digital health, about how to do medicine better, and the ideas from startups that, as Varda said, in a lot of cases, they're not physicians, they have good ideas, they have technological capabilities, and they come to Shiba, which is the largest hospital in Israel, as you can see in this slide, and we have been fully digital for about 20 years almost in some of the fields, 15 years in other fields. So we have quite a large database, but this also brings in the complexity of how do you organize this data, because we're in these different levels working with entrepreneurs, ideas from Shiba, working with startups, working with big strategic partners such as Boston Scientific or AstraZeneca and Microsoft. When you try to create meaningful projects with them, you find out pretty quickly that a lot of the information that is needed is siloed. So we have different silos, although we're digital for quite significant period. The electronic medical record resides on a specific server zone. The imaging resides on a different one. The genomic database, again, is a different database. ECG, a fourth one. And once you want to present this information for a project, for example, when you want to create a model we're now working on a model for the prediction of corona deterioration. We need both EMR, electronic medical record data, but you also want the chest x-ray. The chest x-ray, the raw data is in a different place. The report is in a third place. You want the blood tests, but you also want streaming data from the different monitors. So there is a very important and complex project. How do you integrate all these data elements? And this is the role that I will try and elaborate some more regarding what is really, what are we doing with the data lake? So the data lake we've created with collaboration with Microsoft and an Israeli company named Iguazio is the attempt to bring all this data that is relevant for these hubs you now see.
So now we have a problem with the connection, so hopefully it will work in a few seconds. I must just only say that what the Professor Klemfer mentioned on the side of the COVID research, putting together the electronic media records with the chest X-rays of patients, it's something what also concerns some planned research by the University Hospital in Olomouci, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I think it's the way for the future to work with all the available data and to use artificial intelligence for screening of the pictures and lab results and just give advice to the medical personnel. Yeah.
So it seems that we have just now one very good outcome from our debate today, that this could be the field of joint cooperation, that after we get connection and we will be more relaxed, we can speak to Professor Klemfer about what could be done or whether we can join the forces and maybe also to use the similar approaches like what they are trying to develop.
Most definitely, yeah.
Hello, my name is Dudi Klein. I'm a managing partner at the Alive Israel Health Tech Fund. And in the next few minutes, I will try and give you an examples and describe our vision and strategy about how you create innovation and how you invest in health tech in Israel and potential collaboration opportunities worldwide. So before joining the Alive Fund, I was the head of Ventures Innovation at Asuta Medical Centers. Asuta Medical Centers is the largest private for-profit hospital network in Israel. It has 9 medical centers and hospitals from the north to the south in the entire nation, and it sees more than 1.2 million patients per year. Although Asuta is a for-profit and private hospital network, it's a subsidiary of Maccabi Healthcare Services, which is the second largest HMO in Israel with 2.5 million patients under management, which is more than a quarter of the population. Now, the whole concept and strategy of building innovation in a healthcare system, and especially in Asuta, was initiated by Professor Shamis, who's also a managing partner at the Alive Fund, about 4.5 years ago, when he joined Asuta as the CEO of the entire network. So Professor Shamis understood that there are, I would say, gold mines inside Asuta, and you can leverage them in order to create innovation, to create new businesses, new opportunities, and new developments, and so on. And I will try to give during the next few minutes some numeric examples so you can understand that a little bit better. So when joining Asuta, Shamis noticed that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of data, clinical and operational, that can be leveraged to create collaboration. More than that, Asuta Medical Center, since this is a private hospital network, is not, it is regulated on the clinical side, but less regulated on the business side. So it doesn't need the Ministry of Finance or the Ministry of Health in order to create business collaboration or to sign commercial agreements. And the only thing that matters, or a few things that matters in that perspective, is the clinical outcome and the business opportunities of the specific service or technology, which is very unlikely or very not similar to the entire ecosystem in Israel, which is a public ecosystem supported financially by the government. So since there are business insights, and since there is less regulation, Professor Shamis understood that you can actually leverage on that, and we created the innovation model of Asuta, which is compounded from 5 different pillars, and I will briefly describe them. Then I will move quickly to the LI Fund and discuss the collaboration opportunities. So the 5 pillars are, the first one is the startups. Probably you know, but Israel is the startup nation, and we have approximately 2,000 life science companies actively in Israel. About 40% of them are in revenue stage. Startup companies worked with Asuta in the past, but it was very sporadic and not organized, and Asuta did not see the benefit out of it. So we created a model, which is in a hybrid model and modulated model that startup companies, even in the inception phase, can come to Asuta. They can find a partner. We can actually be from a design partner to be just a site that they do clinical trials. And we created a business model that supports it. So we can provide KOLs, key opinion leaders, business executives, data, integration, product assistant, and so on and so forth. So we can assist the company to create the product, develop it, deploy it, and grow it faster. So we created a whole model supporting that, a business model towards Asuta. I will not dive into it, but this is one pillar. The second pillar is what we call the strategic partnership. And here we have 5 different types of partners. The first and the most obvious one is a provider or other hospitals. The second is the medtech companies such as Siemens, Philips, GE. The third is technology companies such as Google, Microsoft, and IBM. The fourth is insurance companies such as Sompo from Japan, Anthem from the US, Allianz, the European Allianz, and so on. And the fifth is universities. So if you take them whole, if you look at them as a whole, then you understand that they can actually have an entire ecosystem just here. The third pillar is the governmental funding. You are probably aware of the Horizon 2020, but in Israel also we have a lot of governmental support, especially from the Israeli Innovation Authority, but not only, but also from the Israeli National Fund, also from the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance. So we can find a lot of resources which are non-dilutive resources to support both companies, startups, and Asuta to do research and create innovation. The fourth pillar is the Accelerator, which is supposed to do business acceleration to assist companies go into the market. It's a whole concept and a whole model, and can have another speech on that, but we'll leave it. And the fifth part is the Alive Fund. Alive, and I will skip into it, Alive is a mid to late stage health tech fund. That means we invest in everything beside pharma. We do not invest in chemistry or biochemistry. So invest in medical devices, diagnostic, surgical, digital health, healthcare IT, AI, machine learning, and cyber in the space of healthcare. We look at mature companies, and in every vertical, mature company is something that is totally different. In some cases, for example, we invested in a mitral valve company. So in that case, the company is before the first-in-man trials, but we see a horizon of not more than 3 years for an exit. But in other cases, for example, we invest now in a medication adherence platform that already in more than $10 million revenues in the US. So you see the two sides of the companies that we invest. We look at two main parameters beside every parameter that a VC looks. So of course we need the technology, we need the clinical side, we need the people, IP, and so on, investors, exit strategy, and so on. But we look at two main parameters. The first one is that we look at time to bedside, which is a phrase that we created. That means when the technology is going to have an impact on patients inside the hospital. And we look at that frame of 2 to 4 years. And on the same side, we look at time to exit. And when we talk about time to exit, do not specifically, or this is not supposed to be just an exit. We look at a series of events and series of actions need to be done in order to create a massive value creation of the company. So when we invest in company, the typical valuation is something in between $30 to $60 million pre-money valuation. We lead a $10 to $30 million round that we invest a part of it between 3 to 10. And we look to create, so the company's valuation post-money is something in between 40 to 90, something like that. And we look at massive value creation. That means that in 2 to 4 years, we want to see valuation of the company increasing above $300 million to 50, 300. So this is the value creation. And usually companies in that stage are becoming valid for an M&A. Most of the deals in life science or health tech is not by IPOs, unlike the pharma side, is doing by an M&A. So we look at the company's roadmap of being acquired by the big players. So this is what we're doing. Usually we're investing in the last round or one before that. And we are looking all the time for companies. Our mandate is, of course, to invest or focus and invest on Israel oriented companies. So we looked at companies from Seattle, we looked at companies from Switzerland, but we're allowed to invest about a quarter of our fund in non-Israel related companies. So this is very interesting. And more than that, we look to expand our collaboration of the fund that we have. We have a collaboration with a strategic collaboration with Asuta, with Maccabi, and with Carilion Clinic, which is the second largest HMO or provider actually in Virginia in the US. We are looking to expand it and to bring out more partners, clinical partners, providers, hospitals to our network so we can actually evaluate the companies, run them, and put them into the market. So I'm calling from Israel to join our network, to talk with us and to see how we can collaborate both on companies to invest in and on clinical and business collaboration for the companies. Thank you very much.
As you saw, we had to improvise as we lost our connection with the Professor Klempner. Before we will get back to him, because he's again here with us, let me to say a few words about the last presentation. The presenter was Dudi Klein. Originally, he was the head of the Innovation Center in the Asuta Hospital Centers, and he visited Olomouci last year as a follow-up from the Czech-Israeli Innovation Day. He was the guest of the University Hospital in Olomouci. And he presented how the Asuta was looking at the innovations and how they work with the innovations. And he also presented the plans which are related to his current positions, where he is the managing partner in the Alive investment funds, which looks at the healthcare innovations. So now we will get back to Robert. Robert, are you with us? Is the connection working now?
Yes, sorry for that. We had some heavy rain here in Israel. It's been a while since we've seen such rain, and the electricity went out. So I'm back. I hope you can also see my screen. It appears that the rain fixed the share screen in Microsoft Teams. So I hope you can now see the slide with the different floors and different hubs we have. Is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Excellent. So I think for the interest of being concrete, I'd like to give you a number of examples of projects that use both the data lake and elements of telemedicine, which can give you a better understanding of how all this fits together. And then, as the time allows, I'll elaborate a bit more about a data lake, about what we're doing. It's not that we have all the answers. I think it's a very complex field, and the problems are not only technology. There are additional problems like who owns it, who does it, is this a collaboration, do you do the data lake on-prem, or do you do it on the cloud? Do you do a hybrid where you have some of the data in the cloud and some of it resides on hospital premise, on our own servers? And this entire field, I think, is evolving as we speak, with very strong players such as Microsoft and Amazon and Google and IBM and additional ones. But to be more concrete, one of the projects which is very close to my heart, because I'm a professor of cardiology, I'm the director of cardiac rehabilitation and also the Cardiac Prevention Institute, is the program of remote cardiac rehabilitation. It's a program that we initiated about 2 years ago with a collaboration with a company named Datus Health, which was at that time an Israeli startup. It's not a startup today, but it's still a company we do a number of projects with, and it's the backbone of Sheba's telemedicine currently. And we designed pre-corona a program that permits post-MI patients or post-cardiac surgery, post-myocardial infarction, patients after coronary catheterization. It permits them an additional option besides coming to an institute and doing the cardiac rehab there. So if you're low risk, we started a program where we lend you a smartwatch. We install an application on your own device, your own smartphone, pairing it with the watch that we lend you. And we have a complete backend where we can see specifically what you've done every day, what was the target heart rate, what was your speed. You can fill in questionnaires, you have bidirectional secure messaging with our team, and the entire system is geared for a multidisciplinary team dealing with a patient that needs care beyond just a physician. So you have the physician side with the ability to do the chat, the ability to do the video conference, but you also have the exercise physiologist or physiotherapist. You also have the dietitian. You also have the nurse. And we've designed together with Datus a rule engine that brings the correct information to each team member, and each team member has the specific alerts that are relevant for his profession and for the specific need of the people that are in our program. And we're very proud now because it was accepted as a national program, and now it's available in most of the Israeli government hospitals, and I hope it will be available for even additional ones. And it's also now being active in the United States. And this brings us to the question of a data lake. So this system is a cloud system. It resides on Microsoft Azure, and you have to bring in the information from these patients, from these smartwatches, from their questionnaires, and you have to join them intelligently. You have to find a way to securely join their identifiers from the data system with the identifiers from the electronic medical record, which resides at Sheba. But you also want to join this with imaging, for example, because most of them have a chest X-ray. And if you want to create a machine learning model that looks at their activity in the first month of the program, and looks additionally at the electronic medical record and the chest x-ray, for example, and try to predict program adherence based on these findings, then you need to be able to join all this information and enable systems that train on this data to do this efficiently. And so this is just one example. An additional example, which we're also working in the field of predictive analytics, is taking data from people that are in for medical screening. So we have about 15,000 people, healthy people mostly, coming for a medical screening each year, 15,000. And we have the data for about 20 years back. And we've shown in a number of papers that we are able to better predict their outcomes when we use multiple parameters and not just the simple ones which are recommended by European Society of Cardiology. But in order to do this, again, you need to be able to link the electronic medical record, but you also want to link, for example, the ECG, the raw data of the ECG. And the raw data of the ECG contains a lot of very, very significant information, and it has been shown to be highly predictive of future events, such as atrial fibrillation, by beautiful works from the guys at Mayo Clinic, led by Professor Paul Friedman, which we're collaborating with. So if you really want to dive deep into the fields of prediction, into the fields of machine learning, you have to be able to create this data lake, because the systems are so numerous, they're so siloed, and this is a great opportunity to really, first of all, understand what are the systems that are relevant for your data lake. This is just an example of a patient journey that moves from the emergency department, from the ER, to the cardiology department, then goes to cardiac surgery because he has a complex multi-vessel disease, and after that, he is discharged to cardiac rehab. So if you want to create a really advanced prediction system, you have to be able to join the data in an intelligent way. And some of this data is not simple structured data that the good old tables, SQL tables, because we now have in different stages of development additional data streams that are non-structured. It can be an image, it can be streaming data coming from wearables, it can be information from the Shiba app, which is an app that patients download and they use it during hospitalizations and also after that. You have genomic data, you have patient-reported outcomes, and if you need to be able to correctly integrate this, and this is something you probably need a very strong technological partner to do, because the IT departments are usually overworked. They're dealing with maintenance mainly, and they have to keep the ship floating. And this is a complex decision. What's the role of your IT department versus a technological partner or a shadow IT? That's something that some hospitals tried and it's not that successful. To really create an additional department that does only innovation. So you really have to integrate the way you think about a data lake and the roles and the scope. So to conclude, it's a huge issue. We're not done yet. We have a number of the elements residing on the on-premise data lake. Some of them are also residing on the cloud, according to the permission you have to receive from the government official that permit de-identified data to be uploaded into clouds such as Azure or Google Clouds. And one example is, for example, digital pathology. If you want to have the raw image of the digital slide, you have to make a decision. Do you want to store it on-premise, or do you want to have it on the cloud? But then you have to integrate them with the electronic medical record, with the pathological written report, and with labs, for example, if you want to do prediction in oncology. So you have to, first of all, map what are your systems, what are your silos, how do you want to approach this? Do you want to have a hybrid cloud, or does your regulation necessitates only on-premise cloud without on-premise system without the use of cloud? What are the goals? Do you want to implement machine learning, or you want to develop machine learning, or just receive machine learning models that have already been trained and you only need to serve the data? But serving the data for machine learning models, again, it's a complex issue because you have to do this very efficiently. You have to decide on issues of security, of governance, who takes responsibility for different decisions, who is the leader? Is it the IT? Is it the innovation team? How do you do it the best way? And these are elements that only very good planning and learning from other institutions, and we're collaborating with a number of big hospitals and trying not to make the same mistakes that they've done. And we're learning from our partners. We're building it in a gradual way. We're not trying to capture it all, because we believe that if you try to do it all, you'll get a swamp. You won't have a clear vision. You won't have a good enough planning. The partners are very, very important. And by designing this right, you can really have something. But first of all, you need to know what you want. It's not technology for the scope of technology. What are the most important projects you really believe that will benefit from this? Machine learning is a big word, but what are the projects that specifically you believe that are important for your institution? Because machine learning is not just a data lake. It needs an entire platform to deploy a machine learning engine, not only for training, but also after you deploy it, you need to monitor it, you need to retrain it when the data changes. So there are a lot of steps one needs to consider beyond the simple data lake that connects different databases together. So I'll be more than happy to collaborate, to think together, to give you more example of things that work and things that work less. Failure is definitely a thing that you need to be prepared of in machine learning. A lot of projects simply do not give optimal or even reasonable results, and time will be wasted. But I don't think there is another way to go forward. You can't do this on your own. No one can. You need to collaborate with the industry. You won't have the people, the money to pay these teams. So you do need to be able to collaborate with external teams that have these very talented, but also quite expensive people in order to succeed.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert.
I think that's about my time limit, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions and really think together on what's the best way to collaborate and how can we help. No one can do this together. All these projects need validation. You need to have a partner to validate. You need to be able to do training on multiple organizations in frameworks such as federated learning. Again, this is only together.
Thank you very much, Robert. You open many different many different questions, which we will settle in the individual talk with you and with the experts from the university hospital. I took that the rain which interrupted our beginning of the session, it's in the context of Israel, is the blessing. So I hope that even our Innovation Day was blessed by that event. You really put also a few interesting topics for the next speakers, and I would like to introduce our next presentation, which is in a way related to what you said, because every Every story which mentions data also needs the integration of the data, and now we will have the presentation from Dr. Avram Weiss from the Allied Health, who will speak how the chameleon transformed itself due to the challenges of the COVID-19.
Hello, my name is Aviram Weiss and I'm representing Allied Health. I would like to share with you the experience we had in Israel with the challenges posed by COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to focus on the perspective of electronic medical records in Israeli hospitals. First, a few words about our company. Allied Health was established in 2004 and it is part of Allied Group, a 37 years experienced IT company in Israel. Allied Health is the provider of Chameleon EMR, the most common hospital EMR in Israel. Israel is a small country, only 500 kilometers from north to south, with about 9 million citizens. By law, all Israeli citizens have health insurance and are typically members of one of 4 HMOs. Israel has 27 general hospitals. Most of them are owned by either the Ministry of Health or Clalit HMO. 21 of all hospitals use Chameleon as their major EMR. The COVID-19 pandemic has given us multiple challenges to face. I'd like to mention some of them and elaborate on a few. One major challenge since the beginning of this pandemic was the need to quickly transform existing hospital wards into COVID-19 wards and build new ones as the disease spread. As part of this challenge, the State of Israel has decided to convert an entire hospital into a COVID-19 dedicated compound. In order to prevent infection of non-COVID patients in the hospitals, complete separation was required between COVID and non-COVID treatment areas within the hospitals. Patient isolation in the departments mandated unique preparations in various aspects. In order to control the evolving epidemic and make managerial decisions, different overviews of the situation in departments, hospitals, and the national level had to be created. Since the patient treatment does not occur only in the hospital, measures had to be taken in order to ensure continuity of care between different facilities. Preparations have begun in January 2020. By February, we had the first ward prepared in Sheba Hospital and met the first patients arriving on February 21st. Physicians and nurses had to be gathered from different departments and trained for this unique challenge. Ward transformation mandated construction of physical structures as well as electronic ones in the hospital's medical record. Another unique challenge was the need to operate EMR while using a full PPE suit. Several cases have been reported in which viral transmission was caused by sharing computers in these wards. Hasharon Hospital is a 400-bed general hospital belonging to Clalit HMO. It is located in the center of Israel and uses Chameleon as its primary EMR for years. The Ministry of Health has decided to transform this hospital into a COVID-dedicated compound. As such, it now has 200 COVID beds, 40 ICU beds with 4 ECMO units, and 5 wards controlled by CCTV. It required major construction of the physical complex, as well as rebuilding their EMR to suit the new hospital's structure and needs. The entire project had to be ready within a week.
בית חולים שלם הוסב לטיפול בלעדי בחולי קורונה.
התפיסה השתנתה לגמרי. אנחנו יצרנו צירי תנועה חדשים לחלוטין. צירי תנועה מיוחדים לחולים וצירי תנועה נפרדים לצוות. המטרה כאן היא לשמור...
תוך שבוע פונו כל המחלקות של בית חולים השרון והוכנו לקליטת חולים, 200 מיטות אשפוז ו1,000 אנשי צוות יוכלו מעתה לקלוט חולים. כ-40 אנשים כבר מטופלים בבית החולים, אך בקצב ההתפשטות הנוכחי ספק רב עם 200 המיטות של בית החולים לקורונה יספיקו.
Because of the need to isolate the patients, even from the staff, the ability to remotely monitor the patient's situation is necessary. This ability is based on 2 major elements: constant communication with the patients through bidirectional CCTV system, and continuous measurements of patient vital signs and other parameters. These data are collected into the patient's medical chart within the EMR, but also presented in the control room on a centralized screen that enables the caregivers to see all the patients in one glimpse. Among other things, the transformation of general internal medicine wards into COVID-dedicated ones has enabled them to focus on a single disease population. This change enables us to adjust the patient's chart to the unique needs of this disease and its treatment. For example, the patient's respiratory status and their need of ventilation can now get more of the caregiver's attention in the chart. So is the case of unique lab tests and the need to combine repeating tests in order to make decisions about discharge and recovery. The same goes to specific COVID medications, which are now more common than ever before. In such a changing environment, decision support tools are a great help for clinicians to avoid critical mistakes. Several of these have been incorporated into Chameleon in different hospitals. Although all caregivers and managers need an overview of their patients in order to enable relevant managerial decisions, their needs differ from one another. Different hospital units have different dashboards. COVID wards, being single disease again, have unique needs, such as the presentation of last COVID test results and the administration of specific COVID medications. Of course, external BI tools specializing in giving managers the information they need may be connected to the clinical data from the EMR and allow greater flexibility for the managers. Keeping the continuity of care is crucial for all patients. When patients are transferred from one unit to another within the same hospital, information seamlessly follows them when hospitals use a single EMR in all their units. Communication between the community physician and the hospital staff, as well as communication among different hospitals, is less obvious. Israel is using a national system developed by dbMotion to transfer community information to the hospital staff and admission results among hospitals and to the HMO. Another important source of information are measurements and tests performed by the patients themselves, either with home monitoring devices or with already available home COVID test kits. These are gathered by products such as IM&As and transmitted directly into Chameleon. Hospital social workers are involved in creating the proper environment for patient following discharge. A unique interface has been created between Chameleon and the Israeli Social Security Service to ascertain the patient's social rights. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this talk. If you have any remarks or questions, we would love to discuss them.
We would like to close our panel with the presentation of the Israeli experts with an interview with Dr. Rachel Kay. Rachel is it's a person who helped us to start to understand the Israeli e-health system. She is a veteran of the e-health reforms. She has worked with the Maccabi, with the Asuta hospitals, and she became the international consultant on the e-health. She's also advising to the Czech Ministry of Health. And I'm very happy that she can be there with us today. Hello, Rachel. I hope the connection works well. So we've heard from Robert how they what are the important parts of the preparing projects and getting the right partners and so on. We speak a lot about digital health and about the ecosystem here in the region. So would you tell us, based on your experience, what are the important success factors for the implementation of the innovation in the digital health?
I think that there's a very, very, first of all, the management and the implementation of digital health is not so different from the management and the implementation of other changes and other innovations that need to be made within a hospital or a healthcare organization. Looking at it from a very broad perspective, I would say that the most crucial success factor is people. And within that, what I call CWC, which is conviction, will, and commitment. And when you look at this from a more practical perspective, what it means is that in order to successfully manage and implement innovation, and including digital innovation in a hospital or a healthcare organization, you need strong supportive leadership from the top. You have to make it a priority and allocate resources. The other thing that has to happen, I think that's really important, and it's a long-range thing, and that's to create a culture that supports and rewards digital innovation. Many of my partners have already talked about the need for collaboration and coordination among the various different people involved in the hospital system, and it's a team effort. There's no thing that one person can do alone. And yet at the same time, you need champions. You need people who really are the champions, who will take a project and really push it and push it and push it, working together with other people, but basically driving and persisting and not relenting. And I think another thing that you require is a strong IT department with vision, that has a pioneering spirit, that's willing to listen carefully to the clinicians and to the other people who are the users, and to create the kinds of systems and mechanisms and tools that meet their needs.
How you should make the teams, how you should work with the external agents, experts, IT professionals. So what's your experience? How to involve the external stakeholders and experts, and when to involve the patients into the game of innovations?
I think that almost all of our hospitals work with external. I think one of the things that very typifies Israel, and I think both of all of the previous speakers have mentioned it, is that there's a lot of collaboration between healthcare organizations and startups and IT companies and other people, entrepreneurs. There's I think, a dynamic relationship, and they work together well to create innovation. And I think that it's a matter of openness to being able to recognize that even with your internal resources, as great as they are, there's a lot to be learned from other people. And I think, by the way, this has to do not only with entrepreneurs and other companies or technological partners, but it also has to do with international collaboration. One of the things that we do a lot is we work with the European research framework, with Horizon 2020, and now it will be Horizon Europe, to also be able to learn and share learnings with international partners. But I think that when you're talking about how to work with stakeholders, I think two things are really crucial. We have to remember that the core people in any healthcare system are the clinicians. And we have to make sure that all of the solutions we develop, and I think that Robert mentioned this, and I think also that Varda mentioned this to some extent, and that is, you need to be able to understand what their needs are, and you have to be able to communicate the benefits in order to be able to get people to commit to making changes, which using digital technology is, they need to see the benefit for them. So basically, that's what you need to do in terms of working with all of the stakeholders, both internal and external, is to be able to develop a kind of a common language and to recognize that there's got to be mutual benefit.
Okay, so Rachel, could you share with us some of the best practice cases you have seen in this field of implementing innovations?
Well, I'm not going to share with you what the best practice. I'm going to share a couple of examples of, I think, some very successful projects that are exemplify innovation, and just some things that we've done at Asuta. And Robert has already talked about some really great things that have been done at Sheba. And just to show you, and I think that in a way this will be supporting and consistent with what he said. I think it's really important, and this is across the board, that you need to create an infrastructure. Because basically you need the infrastructure so that you can build upon that innovation. And so basically, for example, in Asuta, we have a lot of the things that Robert talked about. We have an electronic medical record, we have a laboratory information system, radiology information system, et cetera, and it's all integrated. And based upon that kind of a platform, we've done some very interesting things that I think are useful and innovative. And here again, we bring into the patient. One of the things that we've done is create patient apps. And patient apps basically guide the patient across the whole spectrum of the services they receive. So just as an example, taking from my own experience recently, if you schedule digitally a test, let's say a radiology test or an imaging test, immediately you get an SMS, which not only confirms your appointment, but also tells you all of the information you need to know about that test, how to prepare for it, what it means, and what its implications are. And it gives you all of the information that as a patient you need to know in order to come to that test prepared and to know what you're doing. And then eventually you also get the results the same way, and basically you get it on your mobile. So I think that we've done, and there's a lot of other uses for this, but basically the patient's app is I think an important innovation, and keeps the patient informed and as a very active partner in his own care. Another innovation that I think is really important is the doctor's app. In Asuta, for example, many of the doctors are independent, not salaried doctors working in the hospital full time, and they want to be able, when they do surgery, they want to be able to stay on top of what's happening to their patient. So the doctor's app connects the doctor through his mobile to the patient record so that he can see at any given point in time exactly what's happening with that patient, including the nursing notes, which keep him up to date so that he can be involved and intervene and stay on top of what's happening to all of his patients really 24 hours a day. So I think that's and then I cannot not mention something related to COVID. One of the things that COVID pushed us to do very strongly, and Varda mentioned this as well, was to move to telemedicine. And we created From Asuta to Home, which had already existed prior to COVID, but got a really big boost to COVID. And basically we created sort of From Asuta to Home, a teleconsultation system that would enable all of our patients to be able to get the consultation and the care that they need without having to come into the clinic.
It's my duty to ask. It's always mentioned that we learn more from failures. So is there any the projects which really didn't work, and you know quite well why?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And actually, I'm going to go back to the exact same project that I now mentioned as a success and look at it as a challenge. And that is the teleconferencing or the teleconferencing system that we had to put into place when COVID that we were really pressed to put into place when COVID made its appearance. And one of the things that we see is that in the first wave of COVID in Israel, which basically began late February, early March, And then we went into lockdown in the middle of March, and we didn't come out of lockdown until the end of April. And one of the things that we saw was that it was really hard. It was really hard to get the doctors to use teleconferencing. They were much more willing to use telephone, and it was really hard to get them to use the teleconferencing solution we created. And I think that the reason is, number one, we were under pressure. We created solutions that were ad hoc and not integrated with the clinician's EMR. I think it also seemed to the doctors like extra work to do a video conference, and they found that using a telephone was easier and more familiar. And we didn't have time to do preparation, training, and change management. So those were challenges that really made us feel that we were not achieving our goals during the first wave. When we came out of lockdown in April, at the end of April, and the people began to also come back to doing face-to-face visits, we took the time to address these issues and to create better solutions and to begin to work more closely to see how we needed to adapt these to the doctor's needs and wants so that they would feel comfortable using it. By the way, the clinicians are always a bigger problem or a bigger challenge than the patient. We learned from implementing telemedicine during COVID is that telemedicine services are both technological and service innovations. And this is true, by the way, for all digital services. And they go much farther than just digitalizing regular care processes and services. They fundamentally reorganize processes, procedures, and services. And therefore, that, in order to succeed and overcome the challenges and the potential failures that you face when you're putting in place a new project, you have to basically recognize and keep that in mind. And there are no shortcuts. You have to reorganize processes, procedures, and services. You have to dialogue and educate all of the users so that you are creating a system that is easy to use and meets their needs.
Thank you. I think Professor Havlik has last question.
Okay. Raka, thank you very much for sharing your experiences. As you mentioned, the people are most important and sometimes most difficult. And my question is, if you change education of your experts, basically the medical school education or education of the young doctors, and if you also use the medical students for your innovative projects?
Yes and yes. I think, it took a while, but I think that all of our medical schools now have dedicated courses to digital technology and the use of digital technology. And in Israel, we've had electronic medical records since 1995. So it's a way of life. I don't think even anybody thinks about it twice or questions that this is something that is just the way you do things, both in the community and in the hospital. And we have actually used medical students to do a lot of things. And I'll give you an example. One of the things that we did in Maccabi, rather than in Asuta as an example, is that we have the electronic medical record and we keep updating it and we keep adding additional features. And the question is, how do you then teach all of the doctors that are all working out there in their clinics, and many of them are independent practitioners. I think this is true and similar to what goes on in the Czech Republic. How do you get them how do you teach them all of the new features and get them to use them? And so what we did was we found that trying to get doctors to come to courses was really tough. So we took medical students and they learned the system, and they would then make an appointment with the doctor in his clinic, and then they would with the doctor's permission, they would then take control of his computer and sit with the doctor in his clinic from a distance, showing him the new features and how to use them. And that has been a very successful approach, and medical students have been very crucial in that.
Rachel, thank you very much. Please stay with us. We will move in our program. Now we have the presentation of the Czech experts, and we will start with the pre-recorded presentation of Professor Havlík, where he's introducing the University Hospital in Olomouci, and he speaks about the creation of the ecosystem for the digital innovations.
Digitalization is the only way how to provide more effective and safe healthcare. Let me introduce our hospital. University Hospital in Olomouci has got more than 1,200 beds, employs 4,200 people. Among them, there is 930 medical doctors. We have more than 50 specialties, it means clinics, and we provide more than 24,000 operations. Per year we have more than 60,000 inpatients, and we treat more than 1 million outpatients per year. Our goal is to have fully digitalized, paperless processes, which will be simple, and in the future we want to use artificial intelligence for diagnostic, for evaluation of the treatment, and to simplify processes. To reach this goal, we are involved in different activities. One among them is establishment of the National e-Health Center. It was established in our hospital more than 8 years ago, and is the first center in the Czech Republic that comprehensively focused on the implementation of clinical research activities in the field of telemedicine. And this is also the coordination center and education center within this new rapidly developing branch of medicine, which is e-health. Another activity is scientific research that is produced within this e-health center, and we are involved in many national and European projects in the field of telemedicine, and among them there is project SHAPE. It's a smart and healthy aging through people engaging supportive system. Basically, it's a cooperation between the healthcare and the social system to provide the best option for elderly people. Another project is development of an integrated concept for the deployment of innovative technologies and services allowing independent living of frail elderly. The name of the project is Knife Life, and it's basically involvement of the modern digital technologies to monitor elderly people, to provide them acute care, and enable for them the elderly part of their lives. Another project is implementation of personalized risk prediction and prevention of sudden cardiac death after myocardial infarction. It's a project called ProFight, and it's basically telemonitoring of the cardiac functions in the risk population after myocardial infarction. And for example, another activity of our telemedicine center is the joint action on the implementation of digitally enabled integrated person-centered care. So it's JADE Care is the name of the project, and basically it's personalized medicine via using the new technologies. Another activity which we are pushing to reach our goal have fully digitalized and paperless organization is the implementation of the communication and integration platform of the Olomouci region. Basically, our hospital wants to change the philosophy of the IT systems in our hospital. We would like to integrate integration platform which will integrate all the processes within the hospital. The healthcare information system will be one access of this information integration platform, and this architecture will enable to connect all the Mid-Moravian region, all the hospitals, all the physicians, will allow the distant access for our patients, and basically will be the robust system to build a paperless hospital and processes. Another activity which we are supporting and we are involved in is the initiation of the Digital Innovation Hub, which is an ecosystem that serves as a contact point for several supportive services for small and medium companies with focus on healthcare in the region and beyond. It enables access to knowledge, technology, prototype solutions, and testing devices, as well as the involvement of the innovative ecosystems in the region. We believe that digitalization is also a future for our region, for the small businesses, it's a big opportunity for the university, which is also main partner in these activities. The other partners are the Innovation Center of the Olomouci region and other hospitals, including Agel Group and Tomáš Bata Hospital in Zlín. Another activities are education of our staff, education of medical students and nurses, and basically what I personally believe that perfection is not achieved by adding something else, but is achieved by the status when there is nothing to take away. And in conclusion, I would like to stress out again that the digitalization is our priority, and our hospital has a strategy, goal, and concrete steps which we are going to do to achieve this goal. Thank you for your attention.
We are streaming today Innovation Day from the BEA campus Olomouci. It's a private project. It has its vision as a place which would promote the innovation of the small and medium companies in the region, mainly like business innovations. But recently the main partners of this campus, which is the Moravian Business College and Tesco Software, we're also looking in the innovations in the area of healthcare. So next presentation will be by the representative of Tesco Software, Josef Tesařík, and he will speak about what's new on their side and how they can contribute to the Olomouci ecosystem.
BEA Campus Olomouci is in the center of gradual implementation of the concept of linking business, science, and research. Its long-term goal is the implementation of acceleration activities, innovations, transfers of know-how and synergies in selected areas. It also supports the development of innovative SMEs in the Czech region. Key partners are Česko-izraelský, an innovative company focused on production and implementation of specialized software, as well as Moravská vysoká škola Olomouc, with a focus on economics, management, and innovation. An important example of acceleration activities in the field of healthcare is the creation of Therap Assist, a specialized software tool for analyzing digital image medical data, thus supporting decision-making process while diagnosing brain diseases. It's currently being applied in several hospitals in the Czech Republic, Germany, and its deployment is discussed in Israel. BEA Campus Olomouc Innovation Center cooperates on creating ecosystem necessary for implementation of smart health innovations in Olomouc region and Czech Republic as a whole. One of important activities of this ecosystem is the implementation of CIID in Olomouc, the first conference in 2019, including support for transfer of know-how. BEA Campus Olomouc appreciates the benefits of cooperation with Olomouc Faculty Hospital, Palacký University, and especially with Israel partners. High-quality potential is created to solve the key problems of digitalization of the Czech healthcare system.
Now we have the last two Czech experts who will be speaking to us because they are colleagues of Professor Havlík. I'll pass the introduction to him, so please.
The ecosystem for innovations and smart healthcare has got also more legs, and one important leg is research. And I would like to introduce Professor Marian Hajdú, who is head of the Molecular and Translation Medicine Center in Palacký University and our hospital. So Marian Hajdú is a worldwide known researcher, and I let him present his lecture.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marian Hajdú, and I am director of the Institute of Molecular and Translational Medicine, Faculty of Medicine, Palacký University, over here in Olomouc, Czech Republic. It's a great pleasure to have a short introduction to our research activities we do at the Institute, and particularly the Institute is focused on two major fields. First is development of innovative therapeutics, and the second is actually personalized medicine, biomarkers, and early diagnostics. In terms of the disease areas, we are particularly focused on cancer, infection diseases, and neurodegeneration and inflammation. The Institute has very good profile. We publish annually more than 100 papers in very good journals, including the leading biomedical journals like Nature, Science, and other biomedical journals. So what I would like to talk about today, and what is our eventual proposal for Czech-Israeli collaboration, is a very emerging field of big data and data analysis and data collection, particularly in the area of personalized medicine. And we need to have a complex data stewardship to be able to advance personalized medicine further. So of course, the major determinants of the therapeutic outcome, particularly in oncology, for instance, is actually a combination of three basic pillars. One is better understanding anatomic stage of the disease, which we actually do at the Institute through development of new molecular imaging for cancer and infection diseases. A better understanding of biology, which actually results in identification of new biomarkers, which we can use eventually for diagnostics and prediction of therapeutic outcomes. And of course, the biomarkers are frequently also very good, new and innovative molecular targets. And targeting the new molecular targets, you can actually develop innovative therapeutics. And all these three pillars are, in a complex way, advancing our understanding of the disease and improving therapeutic outcomes. Well, we have lived in the past in the area of precision medicine. So basically, many of the therapeutic interventions we have been doing in medicine were actually blinded, and we have been applying the same therapeutic schedules to patients without substantial stratification. But this concept was actually changed in the last years, and currently there are a number of biological and targeted therapies on the market where actually for the stratification of patients we need to perform molecular diagnostics. And of course, there is a significant need for personalization of therapy because it's saving time, it's saving costs, and improving therapeutic outcome of the patients. Our institute is particularly involved in research and development of biomarkers. Biomarkers are frequently used for diagnostics of the disease, for prognosing of outcome, for prediction of therapeutic efficacy of particular therapeutic regimes, or there are also pharmacological biomarkers or surrogate biomarkers which can actually estimate engagement of therapeutic targets. Very complex aspect of personalized medicine, and particularly complicated, is actually collection of biomedical data. Those days in medicine, we produce a huge quantity of data, and very few, just a fragment of them, are actually utilized. And the utilization of the biomedical data very much depends on the complex data stewardship. And that's something what we are particularly advancing at our institute, and we are trying to develop a very complex approach for a data stewardship in translational medicine. Anything from creating data, through processing data, analyzing data, preserving data, giving access to the data, open access or not open access, reusing data. These are very important aspects for the advancing biomedical innovations those days. And in European Commission, but also at national levels, we pay a lot of attention, and the importance of data stewardship is dramatically growing. As an example of that is that our institute is a part of large research infrastructures in the Europe for translational medicine, where we are actually the national node, and I'm national director. And also we are involved actively in other research infrastructures, in Elixir for bioinformatics and medical data, BBMRI for biobanking, and other research infrastructures. But we are, of course, using a lot of tools to enable data stewardship, but we are also developing the proprietary solutions at the Institute. So what we have done, we have developed a very complex IMTM data portal, where actually on the website of our Institute, you see the link. You can actually access, if you have access, the individual solutions for the data stewardship, which actually cover the research development process and the clinical applications, anything from the testing of biological activities of small molecules up to the collection of clinical data and laboratory information and management systems, for instance. So what we have developed in the past are actually administration modules, the portal Clean Data, where we actually collect and perform a data mining of clinical data in multicentric studies. This is actually a very nice system for the collection of clinical trial data. Preclinical data, this is actually a particular system for collection of preclinical data in animal models. MedChem Bio portal is actually a portal which we are using in collaboration with chemists and biologists. The chemists are sending us the small molecules or other innovative therapeutics. We are evaluating in vitro biological activities of those compounds, or we perform high throughput screening. And this is actually the portal through which we actually communicate with the chemists. So they actually provide us the structures and we provide the biological data. MoldiMate pipeline is a next genome sequencing pipeline which we are using for sequencing of DNA for evaluation of somatic and germline mutations. Claire is newly developed proteomics software which enables advanced users to identify genetic mutations on the protein level. Very recently, with responding to the COVID pandemics, we have developed a COVIT system, which is a laboratory information and management system, which is currently used in the Czech Republic in many laboratories for evaluation of presence or absence of SARS-CoV-2 virus in biological specimens. We have also developed within the COVIT system self-reporting systems where actually the individuals positively tested for COVID can report their medical status and contacts, relevant, epidemiologically relevant contacts. And this is actually substantially shortening the time needed for tracing of contacts. And of course, we are developing other software applications and other biomedical applications, and definitely we are very much looking forward for any kinds of collaboration we may have now or in the future with Israeli colleagues. Thank you for your attention. You see over here my contacts, the website of the Institute and the website of the research infrastructure I am in charge of. And as I said, we would be very happy to collaborate in the future.
Two key speakers already today mentioned the importance of education. It was Varda Libraman and Rachel Kay. And we also, in our ecosystem for innovation and digitalization, see the importance of the medical education. We cooperate with the Faculty of Medicine and Faculty of Health Sciences. And let me introduce the Dean of Faculty of Health Sciences, Professor Martin Procházka, who is Professor of Obstetrics and Professor of Genetics. Let him show his presentation.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce you our new Faculty of Health Sciences, which is the newest faculty at Palacký University. It was established in 2008 and it's focused on the education of non-medical professionals in healthcare. We have more than 870 students, more than 100 part-time and 28 full-time lecturers, and we have more than 15 study programs, as you can see. Study programs such as general nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, radiology, and many others have undergone transformation in the Czech Republic. They have changed from secondary school type education into the bachelor programs at universities. My colleagues will talk about the new opportunities, how to adopt new knowledge in IT technologies, science, software opportunities into education systems. Our university, our faculty have a highly selective undergraduate program. For example, in physiotherapy, 1 to 10, 99% of our graduates have opportunity to find a very good job. And we have around 2,000 alumni working in at least 5 European countries.
In the light of increased demand for online learning, we must strengthen our IT background and create user-friendly interface where our student and faculty constituencies can meet and fulfill their education goals. This interface would become a platform where students and their educators could resolve their curriculum challenges virtually. Our school is prioritizing this approach to education for future. It is one of our main objectives.
Regarding IT technology in education, we rely on it heavily. We are using advanced simulators, and much of the learning content is digitalized. Practical skills will always have to be taught in person, of course, but the rest of the content is moving online, and blended learning is the future for us. It would be great to have an integrated IT infrastructure with the university hospital so that our students can access real data, real cases, and real scenarios. From pre-hospital care, admission, diagnostic and laboratory tests, imaging, all the results, therapies, and outcomes, so that our students can work with real scenarios safely and anonymously. We are hoping for a comprehensive online learning platform that will be accessible by paramedics, nurses, medical students, midwives or physiotherapists, that will be fed with data from the university hospital, who in this respect is our most important partner.
The outcomes of the ICT platform brings better care to patients. Students of medical and health sciences faculties will get better training. Hospitals will obtain high qualified medical doctors and health professionals. Last but not least, health insurance company will be more effective.
We now heard the presentations of the members of the Olomouc region ecosystem for digital health. So it brings me to a question. What is, what's according to you, it's the short-term strategy of the development of this ecosystem?
As you said, our ecosystem for smart healthcare, for innovations, is nearly established. I think that the short-term vision is not to talk, but to work and show first results. So my intention is bring within 2 years first 3 to 5 projects into clinical practice and just show to everybody that it works and it brings its benefits.
And today we've heard interesting presentations also from the Israel. Do you see some opportunity for collaboration? Could you say some fields which you would find as your, let's say, the most interesting areas?
Most definitely, yes. The important message for me is that the thinking in Israel, how to implement innovations and which field change, are the same as our thinking. Basically, the opportunities and needs are very similar. They are more advanced, which bring us some advantage to copy something in our systems. And I think that the digitalization and the safety management and work with the data, artificial intelligence is our fields which are opportunities for close cooperation.
Thank you. So I believe that next year, when we have the third Innovation Day, we have some new story to present. So thank you very much. So let me summarize our event. We are coming to the end. In order to implement digital innovations in healthcare, we have two basic approaches. One goes from the bottom up, or it can be done from the top down. The Israeli way was from the bottom up, when the action was taken by the health insurance companies, the health management organizations, who are also providers of the healthcare. I would like to get back to our guest, Dr. Rachel Kay, and ask her what she thinks about the concept of developing digital innovation in Olomouc region and what she thinks could be the main challenges from experience working in Israel and also in the Czech Republic.
First of all, I have been in Olomouc in the past and worked with their National Telemedicine Center, and I think that what I would hope to see is Olomouc becoming a very big, not only an example, but also a driver, a force for change for the whole Czech Republic. And I hope that, but I think there's sort of two things that need to happen. One, I think that Olomouc has to work closely, and I know they are doing this already, with the Ministry of Health to basically learn from their model and learn how to broaden that model and apply it more broadly in the Czech Republic. And we are working actually with some of the people from Olomouc in the project with the Ministry of Health on the development of a national e-health center. I think Olomouc can make a tremendous contribution to moving that forward. And the other thing is, and I think this is beginning to happen, is that the health insurance companies have got to become very active partners and drivers for change in this system. There's a lot of similarity in the healthcare systems between Israel and the Czech Republic, and I think that we can actually share a lot of experiences and learn from each other to the benefit of both sides.
Thank you very much. We also heard at the beginning that even the deputy governor responsible for the healthcare in the Olomouc region sees the importance of this reform, and it seems that they are also committed to support the changes because it's partial responsibility of the ministry and partial responsibility of the region. So we have another partner on the board. I have Mr. Havlik to ask if he would like to add something at the end.
I would like to thank everybody, and I can promise from my side that I will push these innovations and digitalizations as fast as I can. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank to all our speakers. We have spent an intensive time, and I hope that this year Czech-Israeli Innovation Day on Smart Health will move the digital health in the Czech Republic to another level, with opportunities for sharing the best practice from Israel on improving services to the public and in the Olomouc region and in the whole country. Thank you for watching us and have a nice day.